All right, everybody. So we had a week off in between here, but we're going to stick with the topic that we were going to do last week. And instead of two movies, we're going to do four movies because we were going to do two last week. We just added those on top of the two that we were already going to review this week. That's how math works. 2 plus 2. All right. So welcome to a brand new episode of Now Showing with Mike and Wayne. This is episode 61.
Yes,
And if
indeed.
you already can't tell, we are going to talk baseball movies.
61, actually, the movie about Roger Maris.
That is another baseball movie. I obviously do not own that one. It's popular, obviously.
Yes,
Wayne, right here I've got the double feature of A League of Their Own and The Natural. So I think that's a good place to start, especially because over the last week or so it was the first time I ever watched The Natural.
Really?
And as you can see, I own it,
Mhm.
but I bought it because I love A League of Their Own.
Yes.
I just had never watched it, and I was like, we're going to talk baseball movies because one of our teams is going to make the playoffs. This guy's team.
Yeah, the way they're playing right now with pitching.
I didn't say they're going to do well in the playoffs. They're going to make the playoffs at least. I watched two baseball movies. We'll get to the other one in a minute that I hadn't seen, and they were very popular. But we'll start with The Natural just because it's fresh in my mind. And it came out in I thought it was older, to be honest. It came out like in 1984, I think. Great cast. Robert Redford, obviously.
Yeah. Wilford
Brimley as the coach. So there was like watching the movie was cool for me because there were a lot of actors that I recognized.
Yeah.
And it made it easier. But I have to say, I actually really liked it. I wasn't sure. Sometimes you watch these old movies and you're not sure if they're still going to resonate today. But I think the fact that he was like the all-around good guy, and would not bend to be anything other than the all-around good guy,
right,
really made it a really fun, interesting, joyful movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny realizing too that he was like 5 years older than he was playing, so he did play younger because I think he was already in his 40s and he was playing like a 36-year-old, I want to say,
something like that. Yeah.
But yeah, it's a really solid flick. Yeah, have you watched it recently, or do you remember it at least?
I watched it about within the last 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
I in fact grew up with this one. It was one of my dad's favorite baseball movies. It's really a tale of two different films. I was always in love with like the sports scenes and everything, not really ever paying attention to all the other stuff going on. Like I never understood, the lady committing suicide and all that stuff.
Yep. That was. I'll tell you what. The opening, like first 10 minutes of this movie, I was like, "What am I watching? Like, what just happened? Why is he bleeding? Why did she shoot him?" And you don't even find it out till much later that she was just kind of nutty. Like it was just like a mental breakdown that she had. The assumption was made that he had something to do with her death or something along those lines, some sort of murder suicide, but he lived. So it was just a crazy opening to, like I said, what I've known for over the years to be this wonderful baseball movie. I'm like, wait a minute, is this how this has started?
How about Robert Duvall as more of a sleazy character?
Yeah,
I love that.
He played it really well.
You're the one that struck out the whammer.
Yeah, and he wasn't all the way bad, but he wasn't, like you said, he wasn't all the way good either. He was just he just wanted that story. Like it didn't matter how he got it. He wanted that story when he went to Glenn Close and tried to get it from her. Kim Basinger, very young Kim Basinger in the movie. Darren McGavin from A Christmas Story plays he's like a senator or something. He's some important person that helps the judge with the baseball team or whatever.
Hey, mister, what's your name? Roy Hobbs. I've always loved that scene where he's on the train and he tosses the kid to baseball. So
it's like probably, honestly, I can't say my favorite baseball movie, but after watching it just one time, it's probably one of the best baseball movies I think that has been made. So I will stick with what a lot of people I think agree on. Barry Levinson directed that one. It was written by Roger Town and Phil Dusenberry. We talk about Redford, Duvall, Close, Basinger. Brimley is the coach, is fantastic. Barbara Hershey plays the unstable woman in the beginning of the film. And then Richard Farnsworth, the old actor, plays the assistant coach that really kind of sees what everybody else saw in Hobbs years ago when he was the natural. He was the
Wonder Boy.
Yes, the baseball bat, of course. he was, and we're going to talk about another movie about Billy Bean.
Mm-hmm.
He was that. He was the five-tool player that could do no wrong. He could pitch, he could hit, he could do everything, and it was all taken away from him. And then it's the whole movie is basically about him trying to get back at least some of what he had lost.
Mm-hmm. And that's going to be a recurring theme in a lot of these movies that we're going to talk
about. It really is, and it actually leads into A League of Their Own, directed by Penny Marshall. A League of Their Own is about women who have to go and or asked to play baseball for entertainment purposes while their husbands are serving in World War II, I believe, right?
Yes. Well, and it's funny that you bring it for entertainment purposes because the uniform, if you want to call it that.
Yes. The skirt.
And, of course, they talk about it in detail in the film about how are you supposed to slide in that thing?
Yep.
What are you talking about? I'm going to have to squat. One of Geena Davis's best lines.
Yep.
Actually, I shouldn't say that because everybody's got amazing lines.
Yeah, she's got so many good lines. Lori Petty, who plays her sister, she's fantastic in this movie. Madonna gives a nice performance.
Rosie is great as well.
Yeah, and I don't always like Rosie O'Donnell. I'm not a huge fan, but she's really good in this movie. John Lovitz, of course. David Strathairn.
Yeah. Hey, cowgirl, see the grass? Don't eat it.
Gary Marshall, Penny Marshall's brother, in it as the one of the owner of the Chicago baseball team. Supposed to be the Cubs, but
the chocolate bar.
Yeah. Bill Pullman plays Geena Davis's husband. But it's a great cast, and obviously Tom Hanks.
Jimmy Dugan.
The male lead of the film. And kind of like you said, get back what you lost. He was a star baseball player who's kind of who's at this point in his career is disrespected because he's an alcoholic. So he's trying to grab at a straw of his old life and be what he used to be, but he doesn't think he can do it by managing women's baseball. But he kind of finds it, as you watch the movie, he does find his groove and kind of get back what he once had. And I think that it's a really interesting movie for that aspect of it, for Geena Davis's character to kind of, again, being the Robert Redford of the movie, really, the natural talent who just so happened to, in that time, be born as a woman and have all that talent, and there's really nothing for her to do with it. Until, nowadays, they have leagues and stuff. Because of these women leagues that were started back then that lasted for, I think this one lasted for like 11 years or
11
something
or 12,
like that.
the All-American Girls Professional Baseball.
Yep. So, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I just thinking about this movie, and this came out, 92?
Yep.
So I was 10, you were 9, 10 on your, right there. I was completely in love with baseball. When this movie came out, it's a comedy, but it's got so much heart to it. And let's talk about the end. It's just, I don't know how you felt, but it's one of the first movies I got emotional with.
Yeah.
Agreed. This used to be my playground, that song, and then
you have the Hall of Fame where they're looking at all the pictures of all the old players. And John Lovitz, the guy who played the older John Lovitz with the cigar sticking out of his mouth. And Stillwell, the little kid that was in all the games.
Angel. And then you find out what happened to everybody.
Yeah. No, it's a really, really good, heartwarming. Both these movies deserve to be part, even though, like we said, The Natural takes a little bit of a dark turn early.
Right.
They are still both feel good, I think, baseball films. Surrounded by baseball. So, we got my favorite movie, I would say, Wayne, is baseball movie is probably Major League.
One that, for those of you that don't know, Michael and I have been coworkers for a long time, or we were coworkers for a very long time. We quoted Major League incessantly.
Yes.
I don't think there's, we found a way to work something in from Major League at least once a week.
I don't think there was a day where we went by where we didn't quote Major League. David S. Ward directed it, also wrote it, starring Tom Berenger, Charlie Sheen, Corbin Burnson, Margaret Whitten, James Gammon, Rene Russo, Bob Uecker, and of course Wesley Snipes as Willie Mays Hayes.
Shit, I've been cut already?
So many great scenes. It starts with the owner of the baseball team, and this is where it draws similarities to The Natural. As in, the owner of one of the co-owners in The Natural wants them to do badly because he'll then win the team and be able to do what he wants with it. In Major League, it's like the comedy version of The Natural. The owner died. The wife is taking control. She wants to move it to Miami, where much nicer town. She used to be like a showgirl, so she's kind of used to that nice weather and stuff like that. And so she wants them to lose. So she basically wants the GM to put together this ragtag team of baseball players, most of who never even played in the major leagues, and have the losing season so that attendance can get way down, and then she can move them to Miami.
This guy here is dead.
Cross him off then.
Sit down, Charlie. Just classic.
So Bob Uecker, of course, being the one of the many, many bright spots in this film, and of its sequel as well, Major League 2, even though if you go by Rotten Tomatoes score, it's like 11% or 9%, but it has probably, in my opinion, I just rewatched this one recently, more Bob Uecker lines that are quotable, I think, in Major League 2. There's a lot, I think, people get confused between the two, because he's so good in both of them, but it's just...
Take over, money. I'm in the bay. Fly ball.
Caught. Can't say shit on the radio. No one's listening.
That's
anyway.
all we got. One goddamn.
That's it. You can't say goddamn on the radio?
Nobody's listening
Nobody's
anyway.
listening. It's just always been one of my favorite baseball classics to go back to time and time again. I had the VHS copy when I was younger, so I used to go back to it all the time. Charlie Sheen is great as Ricky Vaughn.
Mm-hmm. I hate this effing song.
Corbin Burnson is Dorn. I mean, Dorn has in both 1 and 2 has so many great lines.
Mm-hmm.
The one about not taking the ground ball to the face, and I got in my contract. I'm not going to do any. I don't have to do any calisthenics. I don't seem necessary, or I don't deem necessary. And then Lou pisses on his contract. James Gambon as Lou, the manager.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's a veteran character actor. You recognize him if you looked at him. He's had that mustache for many, many years after Major League. He really is kind of like the glue to the team and to the movie, I would say. Because he's funny, but he's not funny in a goofy way like a lot of the other characters are. He's funny in like a very serious way.
Deadpan.
Yeah, very deadpan. When he gets called about being the manager, hold on, I got someone on the phone about some white walls. I'll call you back, Charlie. It's just such a great movie. If you haven't seen Major League, I mean, you've been living under a rock because it's a classic. It's, like I said, one of my favorites, if not my favorite.
Obviously, Serrano and Joe Boo.
Oh, Pedro Serrano, Joe Boo, of course. That whole Harris. Kind of what we've been having really recently in Major League Baseball, with the guys putting the substance on the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Harris in Major League.
Yeah.
I'll paint you up the nose, you put snot on the ball. Put whatever I can.
Black ears. Got to put anything on that side.
A little Vaseline in the hat,
Crisco.
Yeah,
Crisco. Vagisil. Good. It's like, God, that sounds like a walking, just slimy. But yeah, that's like, back in like the old school days, that's what pitchers would do.
They were doing it this year. It got another substance got banned again. But then you get Major League 2 and you get Parkman.
Yeah.
Oh, that little shimmy he does makes all the women here in Cleveland swoon. And then they trade him to the White Sox. The women here in Cleveland puke. Ricky has kind of lost his way. He's a celebrity now. He has like 5 pitches instead of just the Terminator, which is the fastball.
Yeah, you get a piece of it, you can rename it. And we know what it was renamed. Self-love.
Yes. The masturbator? As he's rounding the bases.
But I will say, when he brings back his Wild Thing persona,
yes.
That's another scene that gives me chills. Like, oh my God, it's him. Crank it, Jerry. And she runs over to the stereo and, oh no, not again! And everybody just goes apeshit.
You feel like Randy Quaid's character does in that movie, who is a big part of that film.
That's it, yeah. The bad scene is back. It's wild.
I told you guys. I told you. The whole movie, he doubted that.
The whole scene. Oh, he wants the righty. He wants the vine. Hey, why don't you blow it out your ass?
He's back.
Oh my God.
He's back. So
as you guys can tell, I am having a moment in this experience with this talking about these. So
yes, and they do. So the second one, they do replace Wesley Snipes, who took off after Major League, basically. Replace him with Omar Epps, who did a good job as Willie Mays Hayes. They do look similar. I think that was part of it, in their upkeep. I think Omar is a lot skinnier, but it works. They do one of my favorite parts, because I love movies within movies, especially when they're jokey. So when they do the Black Thunder and White Lightning action movie.
Is that Jesse Ventura?
Yes, Jesse the Body Ventura is White Lightning. Willie Mays Hayes is Black Thunder. And they kill his python, and so he goes out to avenge the death of his python.
So they should have had Jake the Snake Roberts instead.
They should have. That would have made more sense. But he wasn't really doing movies where Jesse the Body Ventura, before he became a governor, was an actor and a wrestler. Jake the Snake now actually has done a couple movies, oddly enough. Anyway, off topic. But it all culminates in you have the Rube, the new catcher, who can't throw it back to the pitcher
unless he's reciting lingerie catalogs.
Lingerie catalogs. I read it for the articles.
Fredericks of Hollywood.
Behringer's character has to. What's his character's name? Is it
Jake Taylor?
Jake Taylor. Total blank. He's the star of the first movie. They kind of reverse it where Charlie Sheen's more the star of the second movie. Mm-hmm. Jake Taylor has to teach Rube how to catch, and then when Lou has the heart attack, when it's
either a leg thing or a spiritual thing or a heart attack. Who used heart attack? Me. Classic.
And then they won't let him watch baseball in the hospital, so he's watching some British soap opera. Like, I love this tea and crumpet shit.
I'm moving to England. It's good. Yeah. As you can tell, we love at least the first two Matrix movies.
Yes, this third one. I saw the third one in theaters, Wayne. I was probably like 14, and it was at the Dollar Theater when it finally had made it and we went and saw it. Me and my buddy Jeb went and saw it, and it was awful. But
I just love the fact that you have a friend named Jeb. That's just fantastic.
Real name's Jeb, but he's gone by Jeb since we were kids.
Cool.
He listens to the show sometimes. So
hey, Jeb, not making fun at all. I love the name.
All right, so the next one I want to talk about is Brewster's Millions from 1985, directed by Walter Hill, starring the late Richard Pryor, the late John Candy. It's a movie about two minor league baseball players who get fired, shit-canned from their baseball team because they get arrested, and it's a minor league team, and the team does not want to pay their bails, the Hackensack Bulls in New Jersey. And it's famous for Richard Pryor. He wears a Cubs jersey in the beginning of the movie, at the end of the movie, because that's what he shows up in, and that's what he ends up in. That's the whole plot of the movie. So Brewster's Millions is a movie about Richard Pryor's character who has an uncle who just passed away and has a fortune. Montgomery Brewster is Richard Pryor's character, and he is left $30 million. But there's a catch. He has 1 month to spend $30 million and end with nothing. And meaning that he has to have no assets, no houses, no cars, nothing. He just has to spend the $30 million and it has to go away. And if he does that, he then gets $300 million, which is the true inheritance. If he doesn't, he walks away with nothing. Two old rich white guys then end up owning the company and taking the $300 million and whatnot. So he embarks on this adventure with his friend. He can't tell anybody about it. So his best friend, John Candy, all he knows is he got $30 million. That's it. And he goes on this adventure to basically spend all $30 million. Meanwhile, it's great because his friends feel bad for him that he's just losing all this money. So they secretly invest his money into other things and end up making him more money, which then makes him have to lose more money again. There's a scene where they like, no, we put it in this and we just made you $10 million. He's like, no, I gotta start all over again. And then he ends up, the real trick of it is like he sees a political ad on TV and he's like, oh, well, I'll just run a campaign because I can just throw all the money. And he's right. Because what do you do with the campaign? You just throw a bunch of millions of dollars into it because we're allowed to do that in this country. So that was his big idea, and it kind of saved him. I always thought this movie was very funny. I love Richard Pryor. I think he's hilarious. John Candy is one we've talked about him many times. One of my favorites.
Absolutely. Richard Pryor is responsible for pretty much every stand-up comedy comic that we've had in the last 40 years.
He's
now?
He's like the godfather of that style of stand-up comedy. Mm-hmm. He was, raunchy and out there, but he was topical too. It wasn't just like gross to be gross. He had a point to a lot of his comedy, and I think he was a lot smarter than people gave him credit for. He wrote Blazing Saddles. Like, he did a lot of this comedy work in film too. Some of it which people don't know because unless he was in the movie, people don't always know that he was involved with it behind the scenes.
I did not know that he wrote Blazing
Saddles. He was supposed to be in it, but then I think he was just really busy at that time, probably doing stuff with Gene Wilder. And then he wasn't able to be
He
in
was
it.
in a movie with Gene Wilder, really?
Yeah, there's one or two of them out there. So
I think, you know what I always respected Richard Pryor for? The fact that he was able to make fun of things that happened to him in real life.
Yes.
Obviously, he used, setting himself
on
on fire.
And that was one of his jokes on stage. Yep.
And yeah, it's one of his funniest bits. And, I guess to put yourself out there and be brave about, like, hey, yeah, I was smoking crack and I set myself on fire and I'm running down the street. I mean, it's hilarious.
Yes,
I mean, subtext, of course, but.
It has a good supporting cast, as we talked about with John Candy, and Pat Hingle is also in it from the Batman movies as Commissioner Gordon. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, it does have Stephen Collins, who is now a pedophile, so that's not good. He's the only one that's like alive too. It's like great. He was from that Seventh Heaven show, but he plays a piece of shit, so I guess it works. Jerry Orbach, the late Jerry Orbach, also in this movie. He plays the coach of the Hackensack Bulls. They never really explain what happens when he gets the $300 million, but obviously it does have a happy ending. It's not one of those. It's just one of those movies I've always really liked, and I don't feel like people talk about it enough. And I did realize like it was not reviewed very well, so maybe that's why people don't talk about it enough. But I really like it. I think you should check it out if you haven't seen it.
I have not seen it. I'm going to need to.
Yeah, it's really, really good.
Get a hold of it.
This right here is one of my favorite ones, Wayne. That's Moneyball.
Yes, sir.
We talked about at length kind of about that movie already, but it's in it. Like, if you haven't seen it, Brad Pitt is fantastic in it. Jonah Hill is great in it. Bennett Miller directed it.
Was this the first movie we really saw Jonah Hill as a real serious character?
It was his first Oscar nomination, because he would then get Oscar nominated for Wolf of Wall Street.
Right.
He really kind of stretched his acting chops and has now kind of become a more serious actor and producer because of that. So you really don't see him do that many kind of oddball comedies anymore. It's more kind of weird comedies or something a little more serious.
Well, I mean, he's kind of aged out of that.
Really, a little bit, yeah.
Think about it. I don't know. Anyway, maybe not. Who knows?
Well, and he's like gotten in shape and stuff too. So some of that, he was always the fat funny guy. When you're not the fat funny guy anymore, the question is then what do you do? So similar to like someone like Seth Rogen, you then basically just end up taking over Hollywood and make whatever you want and do whatever you want at any given time. All right, so the other movie, Wayne, that I saw for the first time, and I think you're a fan of it, Bull Durham. I never watched it before. It's free on Philo TV, one of those free TV stations, Pluto TV. It's free on Pluto TV right now on demand. That's how I watched it. It's pretty good. It wasn't my favorite, but I did enjoy it. I like Tim Robbins a lot. Came out in 1988, directed by Ron Shelton, who we've talked about before. He either does sports movies or cop movies. Those were his two things. Kevin Costner, Susan Sarandon, Tim Robbins, Trey Wilson, Robert Wall. Robert Wall is always very funny. I like him a lot. He plays like the assistant manager, I think.
Yeah. Basically, the movie, it's about a minor league baseball team, the Durham Bulls this time.
Yes.
Kevin Costner plays Crash Davis, a career minor league catcher who reveals that he did spend 2 weeks in the show, the majors.
Yes, that's like his claim to fame. Yeah, he wants to get back. That's his goal, is to get back.
And throughout this course of the season, he ends up breaking the minor league
home run record
title holder.
Yep, which no one knows. Yeah.
Yeah. And he was brought in to mentor this young and upcoming pitcher,
Tim Robbins.
Abby Calvin LaLouche, also known as Nuke, played by Tim Robbins. And they got a great thing back and forth. Crash really does a great job trying to keep Abby's ego in cheek and in check.
Abby's ego in check.
And I mean, some of the things like, when they first meet, I keep hearing about this $1 million arm, but I'm more curious about this 5-cent head. He's like, hit me on the chest with this baseball. I could kill you. Yeah, from what I hear, you couldn't hit water if you fell out of a fucking boat. Oh!
And then he completely misses him.
Yeah, and then he misses him, breaks the window, all four, and then so Abby charges him and just drops him with one punch. First lesson, don't think, just throw.
Yes.
But yeah, it's a great little... baseball centered, but there's so much going on. It's really about relationships and being in love because Susan Sarandon is
plays a woman who basically thinks she has a magical vagina, I guess, because she picks a player, she sleeps with that player for the season, and then they usually their batting average goes up or their pitching,
the best season
the ERA goes down,
career.
whichever. Yeah, they have a really great season, and so she and another friend of hers, basically that's what they do, and it's not. They're not like groupies necessarily. They feel like that they're helping, I guess.
If you're familiar with the movie Almost Famous, they're kind of like Band-Aids for ball players.
Yes, that's true. That's
supporting
that's
the player, if you will. But just a whole lot of hilariousness goes on. Traveling by bus in the heat of summer in the southeastern part of the country, and at one point it's like, we could really use a day off, or I could guarantee a rain out. And he goes in and he turns. Crash Davis goes to this park that they're supposed to be playing at the next day. Floods the field basically, and they got this awesome riff from oh gosh, I'm going to enter the band name here when I figure out what it is.
That's okay. We'll do that later. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. It's one of those ones I don't know that how many times I'll go back and rewatch it or anything. I didn't make me like run out and buy it, but I liked it.
Yeah.
Another one that I think doesn't get as much love as the other movie that came before it. Everybody Wants Some. It's from Richard Linklater. He did Dazed and Confused. It's basically his 80s version of Dazed and Confused, but it centers around a baseball team in college. So it's really good. I really liked it a lot. It's very well done. And if you like Richard Linklater, there's really, in my opinion, he doesn't do much wrong. And it really does have a lot of the same vibes as Dazed and Confused. Obviously, it's not as much of a classic as that, but it does do some things for the early 80s. And it's got a great cast. It has Wyatt Russell, who basically he's like if anything, he's the closest to the McConaughey because he's the stoner of the team.
Nice.
And it's Kurt Russell's kid. He plays it pretty well. But there's a great young cast. It's really good. I haven't watched it since it came out probably, but it is fantastic. So if you haven't seen that, definitely check that out. Never Want to Forget Fever Pitch, the rom-com baseball movie, if you will, about a teacher who falls in love with she's like an ad executive or something like that, some important business job. Yeah. And his one thing in his closet, or his one red flag, which has been the new term out there lately, is that he's a diehard Boston Red Sox fan with season tickets.
Mm-hmm. And didn't this movie come out when the Red Sox won in 2004?
So they were making it in 2004. It came out in 2005, but they were making it in 2004, and they were filming those games at the World Series. And then it looked like that when they were down 3-1 to the Yankees, and they started making that comeback, they're like, the Farrelly brothers were like, oh my God, like they may do this, they may turn it around. So the whole story of the movie changed. They were expecting it to end it on a downer, and they were going to lose, but they were going to still find love. Well, they had to change it when they started to win. Yeah. And they actually went back and filmed. So if you watch the movie, it ends at one of the games with her running across the field, him meeting her getting arrested, and they kiss or whatever. But they go on to tell you that but later on, it turns out that the Red Sox were able to turn around. Everyone knows about Kurt's sock and Pedro's arm and all this stuff, and they actually Jimmy. My son has been confusing Jamie Foxx and Jimmy Fallon lately. So
they look so much alike.
They do. Jimmy Fallon and Drew Barrymore actually went to the World Series games to kind of film the montage ending of the movie where they're celebrating the victory. So I thought that was pretty cool, and it's a nice little story. It's also a really good rom-com, to be honest. I'm surprised. You know what? I can't believe we didn't mention during our rom-com special. Yeah. But it just happens to be surrounded by baseball fandom. Yeah. Then you got this other movie here, also surrounded by baseball fandom. Goes in a little bit of a different direction.
Hard left.
Tony Scott was directed by Tony Scott, starring Robert De Niro, Wesley Snipes, Benicio del Toro. It's about an obsessed baseball fan. Bobby Rayburn comes back to California to play for his hometown San Francisco Giants, and Gil, played by Robert De Niro, goes insane. He's a knife salesman who's kind of like on his last strike at work, and then he just kind of snaps, kidnaps Bobby's son, kills Benicio del Toro to get him to play better because Benicio del Toro's character had his number and he was playing like crap. Just, it's a nutty movie. I really dug this one. Tony Scott to me is one of those directors. Not all his movies are great, but even his bad movies are still fun to watch, and this is one I really enjoy watching. It's fun to see kind of De Niro again. I mean, he did it many times back then. Cape Fear as well, where he just kind of goes nuts.
Unhinged.
Yes, and he plays a good unhinged person.
Yeah, Taxi Driver.
Yep, Taxi Driver's another. It's a good example. So that one, if you haven't seen that one, and then I kind of forgot about this movie. I didn't really buy this one on purpose. Like, I bought it for I got it for like my mom's friend because she wanted to give it to her boyfriend or something. And then I ended up with 2 copies of it somehow. I don't know if you've ever seen this
Beer
one.
League, yeah.
Beer League. It's got Artie Lane and Ralph Macchio. It's actually pretty funny. Like I was, when I finally watched it, I was surprised at how much I actually liked the movie.
Yeah.
It's like one of those movies where you have the asshole friend, but in this case, the asshole friend is the star of the movie, and Artie Lane, and hey, what? Son of a bitch. Ralph Macchio, who would normally be like the star of the movie, is kind of second fiddle to Artie Lane's asshole character.
Oh, kind of like Karate Kid.
Yes, basically. It's the reverse. It's basically what if Johnny had been the star of the movie. And
He was the star of the movie. Just ask Barney.
yes. So that's one I think like no one's probably heard of because it was really kind of an indie comedy. It came out many years ago. If you haven't seen it, check it out. I have baseball up here. We've talked about baseball numerous times on the show, so watch it. But we talked about during a basketball episode. It is a baseball movie too because it's basketball, so it takes both baseball and basketball and makes it one thing.
And if you're sitting there wondering, they haven't talked about The Sandlot, they haven't talked about Field of Dreams, they haven't talked about For the Love of the Game, a bunch of the other Costner baseball movies.
Yes,
we have talked about them. I don't want to use the term exhaustively, but like Michael said, we've talked about them a lot, and we love them. They are fantastic, but there are so many great baseball movies. I mean, 8 Men Out is an underrated, fantastic one.
This is the recommendation part. So yeah, there's plenty others to choose from that we didn't talk about. Some of these I wanted to talk about because I think they're not as talked about as the other movies you mentioned. Exactly. I mean, Field of Dreams, obviously, right now, what's going on in Field of Dreams. They're actually doing it in baseball for the anniversary of your team because you guys were a part of that movie. Got to be basically the first ones I think that they did it with.
Well, it was supposed to happen last year, but they canceled because of the damn COVID.
Costner showed up for the anniversary at your guys' game. Yep.
Yeah, well, Costner comes walking out of the cornfield, like chills. And he did his monologue, and then all the players came out. And then, in true White Sox fashion, they blow a big lead, but somehow they did end it with
Tim
a walk-off.
Anderson, right?
With a walk-off home run in the bottom of the ninth. And not going to lie, I kind of went a little apeshit on that. I was like, oh my God, it's so fitting. I wish we could have got something from James Earl Jones, just like a little voiceover.
It would have been nice.
Or Ray Liotta.
Would have been nice, yeah.
I'm happy that Costner was there.
It was good, yeah. No, it's very cool on how they did that. Yeah. So yeah, again, it's not that we don't like those movies, like Wayne said. It's just that we have talked about them. For Love of the Game, the reason I didn't talk about that one, we haven't really talked about that one that much. I haven't seen it in probably 10, 15 years, if not longer. So I liked it, I remember, when it came out, because it's directed by Sam Raimi, so I tend to gravitate towards his films, even if they're not horror movies. But I don't remember it much.
I want to go back to Field of Dreams really quick. Sure. I know it's like, I don't remember exactly how much we talked about this, but a lot of people don't like this movie. You really have to suspend your disbelief, and it's really a science fiction movie.
Yes,
when you think about
it's science fiction, and it's another one that I would almost put in the category of a baseball movie, not necessarily about baseball.
Right.
It's about having that last moment with your
relationships again.
Yeah, with his grandfather.
It's his father.
His father.
But his father was older in years when he was born, and they were bitter. His mom died really young, and it's really giving somebody back something.
Yes.
Shoeless Joe, Moonlight Graham,
really
Terrence Mann. Every character that is interacted with lost something, and it's really about giving back to them. But again, a lot of science fiction, a lot of sci-fi to it. So I get why people don't like it as a baseball movie. I think it's fantastic, all-encompassing, but hey.
It's to each their own, man. It's been a while since I've seen it, so I can't, I don't know if it holds up, but I liked it last time I watched it. So, so that baseball movies, many people know me, baseball is not my favorite sport, but I do like a lot of baseball films. I would say probably Moneyball and Major League are my 2 favorites. So one drama, one comedy. Moneyball, I really like the statistical aspect to that movie.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
And it really is. It really is. And that's, I think, why I dug it so much.
I'm going to talk about one of my favorite movies that only has one baseball scene in it, Only the Lonely with John Candy,
Okay.
where he takes Ali Sheedy on a date to the old Comiskey Park, and he sets off the fireworks on the scoreboard. This was right before the ballpark got torn down.
Yeah.
Obviously it was shot in Chicago, so
yeah,
I love it just because of that hometown ties thing. But yeah, just to see old Comiskey Park, where I was introduced to the game one last time before it met the wrecking ball.
And now it's kind of enshrined in that movie, too,
is.
for you. Yeah. Anytime you watch it, you can kind of see that last moment. So that's pretty cool.
But, I mean, we should probably talk about the Rookie with your Cubs and Wrigley Field being on display there.
Rookie of the Year.
The
Rookie is the Dennis Quaid movie, which I did not
see. More movies, baseball.
But
we're
Rookie
just
of the
kind
Year.
of freestyling here, folks.
Yeah, we are. we're going to be wrapping up the baseball stuff here soon. But yeah, Rookie of the Year. Also, Angels in the Outfield, Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Another great one.
Lloyd. Those are, two movies as a kid that I really enjoyed. I have not seen them in a long time, so I can't say like how good they still are. But Rookie of the Year was, as a Cubs fan, that was always a fun one to really get behind. Henry Rodengarter, great cast too in that one. Just two fun movies. Again, haven't seen them in a while. Little tidbit: Matthew McConaughey, young Matthew McConaughey in Angels in the Outfield, plays one of the outfielders. So if you don't remember that, go check that out. All right, now we're going to get into our reviews
of the week.
And we've got, it's a huge review week, we've got 4 movies to go through. We are going to start with the Netflix original starring Jason Momoa called Sweet Girl. It is, Wayne, one thing I'll tell you right off the bat was that disappointed. They use Sweet Child of Mine in the trailer, and it's not in the movie. That was like, what are you doing? It didn't make any sense. All right, directed by Brian Andrew Mendoza, written by Philip Eisner, Greg Hurwitz.
Wait, hold on, go back. What now? They didn't use the song in the movie?
No.
Sure they did. That's what she's singing to the daughter. She's got eyes of a...
Oh, but they didn't actually use the song.
It counts.
It doesn't count. No, it doesn't count.
It was a poor rendition,
because I didn't even know this was happening. Stupid movie. Let's see. Produced by Momoa.
It did have a pretty cool twist, but
it's been done before. All right. Jason Momoa, Isabella Merced, Manuel Garcia Rulfo, Raza Jaffrey, Justin Bartha from
Doug from The Hangover. They should have left his ass on the roof. See what he turned into.
Michael Raymond James. He was from True Blood. So it is a movie where it's like an action revenge movie where Big Pharma's the villain, I guess is the best way to describe it.
And they get off scot-free. Shocking.
Shocking, right? It's just like now. So it starts off with Jason Momoa and his daughter, played by Isabella Merced, and the mother is dying of cancer. And the miracle drug trial that she can get into gets canceled because they pull the drug, and that's Justin Bartha is the face of that company. And so he calls in a show that he's on. It's like Good Morning America or some news show. And he basically tells him that if my wife dies, I'm going to kill you. And then there's a scene where they're on a train.
Nobody screens calls or anything like that when they call into a talk show like that.
Right, exactly. There's some you have
to suspend the disbelief for sure. Big time.
And then in one of probably the cooler action sequences, there's a train scene where they go to meet somebody, that person gets assassinated, and then they try to kill Jason Momoa and his daughter, and then there's this big hospital scene. I don't want to give away. There's a twist that happens within this movie that I don't really want to give away in case people want to watch it.
Right.
I was expecting it to be a lot more action-packed. I didn't get what I wanted necessarily out of it. It's okay. It's not terrible, I don't think. It
disappoints.
It disappoints, and the twist, I don't know that the twist is totally earned. I really don't. Like, it's a fun twist, I guess, but it seems like they had that idea, and then they kind of tried to make a movie around that idea.
Agreed.
And there are some things that just I think are hard to believe, I guess. But whatever. I digress. It wasn't great.
They didn't do a good enough job. Like, it's the twist still got me, but they didn't do a good enough job kind of deflecting.
No, they didn't. And preparing, not even like you need like preparing the character for the twist. Like it just, yeah, I don't know, and it just, I don't know, it didn't work for me. I could say something that would totally give away the twist, but I'm not going to because I could compare it to another movie, and I'm sure Wayne probably knows exactly what I'm talking about. But I won't say that movie title. It's on Netflix. You can check it out. It's okay. It just, I don't know. I was expecting it to be like one of those like turn your mind off movies.
Yeah.
Watch Jason Momoa beat the shit out of a bunch of people, which we do get some of that. We just don't get as much as I would have hoped.
He did a great job in the first 20 minutes with just the emotional range, which I didn't expect from him. Like Jason Momoa doesn't do a bad job at all. It's just
it's not his fault.
Together, it just didn't come together, like story wise and everything. Like the actors did a fine job.
Yes,
it's just.
Yeah, everybody was. I like Isabella Merced. I've seen her in a couple
other things. She did a great job too. She was believable with her fierce anger and whatnot. And everything else that goes on. It's just
kind of being like Momoa. No, it really didn't. And then it just kind of, when it turns and you find out what's going on, you're just like, oh.
But yeah, all encompassing. Sweet Girl, not the worst movie in my opinion that we're reviewing this week. So.
All right, so next we have the HBO. Well, it's really a Warner Brothers film, but it went to HBO Max in theaters on the same day. Reminiscence, starring Hugh Jackman, and directed by Lisa Joy, who was a writer and creator on She worked on the TV show Westworld, and you can tell there's some Westworld actors in this. Tandy Newton. Is in this, as well as we'll get down to the rest of the cast list. Amanda Serafin, I believe is her name. Angela Serafin, sorry.
I usually love Hugh Jackman and everything, but this one just kind of missed the mark for me on a little bit, and I don't know. For me, this was like a mix of The Cell with Vince Vaughn and Jennifer Lopez, and The Matrix a little bit.
Matrix as well. Strange Days is another one that comes to mind from Catherine Bigelow. I actually read a review where the guy's like, yeah, I like Strange Days better. Like, they did this already.
Yeah.
And that movie doesn't get any love at all. So, like, the fact that they were basically kind of doing the same plot and it just doesn't all come together. It's really not completely interesting.
I was also disappointed we didn't see any animadium claws or singing from Hugh Jackman.
I mean, he's Wolverine and he can tap dance. Why didn't we get any of that? He could have easily ended this movie in 5 seconds.
Mm-hmm. You want to do this movie, but you don't want to do Deadpool 3? Bro.
This is true. Bro. This movie, and just so people know, it's made no money. Like people think like the HBO Max affected Suicide Squad. This made like $2 million when it opened up. Which is not. It was less. It was like $500,000 a day or some crap like that, or whatever. Average. Obviously, some days it made more, some days it made less. It did not do well at all. Cliff Curtis is in it as like a corrupt cop. Rebecca Ferguson, who was really good in it. It just, for a movie like this, it's science fiction love story. You have to kind of be interested in what's happening, and you really just never care that much, I would say.
No, from the jump, it just seems like Hugh Jackman's character is kind of just creepy and obsessive.
Yeah.
But that's just me.
It is, because, and I think part of it is, too, because I think my wife, she fell asleep at some point, but she watched some of it with me. She's like, didn't they just meet? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, they did, but I think they were actually in a relationship for a long time. We only get to see a split second of it.
Right.
And then throughout the movie, we're kind of told that it was like, I don't know, like 5 years or something like that. And then one day she just disappeared. And that, because Reminiscence, so I guess we should explain what Reminiscence is.
Yeah. Might help.
It's the idea to take a simple reason, and the reason the woman comes into the place in the first place to find her car keys. And it's in your memory somewhere where you lost them. So you go in, you sit in this tub of water, they put a thing on your head, and then they help you locate what you lost, or remember something that you can't remember, or live in a memory, too. You could do that, too. They don't recommend it, but you can live in a memory forever if you wanted to.
Yep.
And Hugh Jackman's character and Tandy Newton, they run one of the more well-known, I guess, establishments that does this reminiscence thing. And they keep the memories in a vault So nobody can get to them. Of course, you could see a plot point there where someone may want to come and steal them.
Eternal Sunshine of the
Kinda-
Thoughtless Mind,
yeah.
but not good.
It is very similar to that. Yeah, I didn't even think of that one, but that's a great movie.
It
And
just
this one,
came to me right now.
yeah,
So.
yeah, because you know that's a great movie, and I wasn't thinking of not great movies when I was watching this.
He's right.
It's just I don't know. I was hoping it was going to be one of those movies that oh my god, you got to see this, and it really doesn't. Sometimes the sci-fi movies really fall flat, and this one, I think, like you said, it tries to get you involved in this relationship. Sorry, in this relationship that we aren't that invested in.
Yeah.
Hugh Jackman's super invested in it, but we aren't because we don't really know anything about it. And then you really don't get the sense of how strong it is until the end of the movie. Yeah. And by then, you just don't care anymore.
See, I needed something, even like a simple montage to show the length of the relationship. Yeah. And just like quick significance, like, okay, this is someone that he knows and has an attachment to. He's not just obsessed with a client.
And so what they do is they kind of make it, you piece it together. But the character's not, that's just it. Like, the character knows how long. And so it's just a weird way to tell a story, I think, because then the audience ends up not getting invested in it until the end. And by then, like I said, I just really could care less. Everyone was fine in it. I thought Hugh Jackman had a nice performance, and Rebecca Ferguson was good. Tandy Newton was good. They're always good. It just wasn't interesting. I've seen better, Minority Report comes to mind, stuff like that, where you can have the ability to either look forward or look back. Like those ideas have been out there for a long time.
But like Minority Report was well executed.
Yes,
and
exactly.
The storyline was clear and concise, and
totally
you don't have to figure it out yourself.
People do not talk about Minority Report enough, and I really recommend that one over this one. Mm-hmm. So the review of Reminiscence has turned into a recommendation for Minority Report.
And honestly, I would say watch that one instead too.
All right, so our next one is going to be just so we kind of go in a lot of different directions this week.
Yes.
We had our action movie, our sci-fi movie. This is our comedy, Vacation Friends.
Yes.
So Vacation Friends, directed by Clay Tarver, written by Tom Mullen, Tim Mullen, Clay Tarver, Jonathan Goldstein, and John Francis Daley. I did not know they wrote it with them. Those guys are really funny. John Cena stars with Laurel Howery, Ivana Orji, I don't know if I said that correctly, but that's how it's spelled, so I'm going to go with that. Meredith Hagner, Robert Wisdom, Lynn Whitfield, and Andrew Batchelor.
I was trying to figure out, watching the movie, who Meredith was. Like, okay, what has she been in before? It's like,
I still don't even. I didn't look her up.
I thought, I don't know. I was like thinking, like, did she used to be on Dancing with the Stars? Is that
soap opera? It looks like she was a soap opera star.
Like, but anyway.
They're Going the Distance. She was in.
Right.
Palm Springs. She was in actually. So we saw her in that.
Wow, that's going back to episode 2. I believe.
Yeah.
Look out.
Yeah.
I had concerns going into this one about if Laurel Howery and John Cena could carry a film and the male leads, but surprisingly, they're both not just great supporting actors. They got chops to be headliners.
And it's kind of like almost what I'll say, the summer of John Cena and the year of Laurel Howery. Because Laurel Howery's been in I feel like 12 movies this year.
He's been in at least 5 that I can think of off the top of my head that we've reviewed in the last, 8 months?
Yeah, seriously. Because I know he was in the Eric Andre one The Trip or whatever. So I know he's been in a lot of other ones. But he's the lead here. John Cena, what I like about it is it's kind of off character a little bit. Because you get Laurel sometimes. I mean, he always kind of plays the uptight character, but you get Cena, who, if you watch Blockers, is like the very uptight father. Yes. And in this one, he is not that. He's allowed to let loose.
Yeah, he's a bro in this one.
He is a bro. It's not. I'm gonna just say this. This is a movie I wouldn't necessarily call a good movie, but it's a good time.
Yeah.
And it's entertaining. It's not incredibly hilarious, but there are some really funny moments in it. But it's kind of very touching at the end. It has an emotional turn to it that I didn't see coming. That hit me. So it made me throughout the movie. It was one of those movies I was watching. We've had this on the show before. I'm like, I don't really. And then all of a sudden, the ending hits. I'm like, you know what? I like that movie. Yeah. And this is kind of one of those movies where at the end I was like, oh, you know what? That was a sweet movie. Like it was really nice. I liked it. I'm a big fan of getting Cena and more things. Like I said, it's been the summer of Cena with F9, the Suicide Squad, and now Vacation Friends. He's kind of taking on so many different roles. He's expanding his acting chops, and it's working out. I think he's growing as an actor. I'm interested to see where he goes from here. I'd like to see him in something like a drama or something. Like right now, get action and comedies, but I think something dramatic would be nice for him. I want to say there's something coming up where it's like a drama or a thriller or something, which I want to see him in something like that.
That makes perfect sense because with his physique and just his physical power, I want to see something where it's like an emotional turmoil type thing where let's see, like it's like big tough guy who can't fix something like this.
Yes.
That's a great tagline.
There it is.
Somebody call Hollywood.
So we just wrote the next John Cena movie in 5 seconds. So you could do worse than watching Vacation Friends. It obviously was probably supposed to be in theaters, but Fox decided to dump it to Hulu, which is what they've done with some of their other movies and stuff that they haven't had a lot of faith in. It fits right at home, I think, on Hulu with some of the other releases they've had this year that we've touched on. Definitely recommend checking it out, even just for a little bit of a laugh and a good time, and just to see Cena grow as an actor.
This would be a good one to do a party stream if you're not comfortable sitting around with a bunch of people yet, or whatnot, depending on what's going on. It's good. I would say it's a good party film.
Yes,
hang out, get some pizza, laugh. You don't need to really pay attention to it. Kind of like the last movie that we talked about, Reminiscence, is kind of like you gotta focus. This is just like.
And the Reminiscence, even when you focus, it still didn't make any sense. All right, so this brings us to probably our most interesting film of the week, and I don't want to say controversial. It's not really controversial, but like two sides of the coin. Where I'm more on the I liked it because it was so weird and disturbing, and you didn't like it because it was so weird and disturbing.
Before I say that, I need to rewatch it again just because there's so much going on. It's so much to take in with just concept-wise, I guess.
Yes.
And well, it's a very. Let's talk about what
okay, so it's called A Net.
Yeah, very stylized,
and it's new to Amazon Prime within the last 2 weeks. Leos Carax, who Wayne. 9 years ago now, his movie Holy Motors came out, and I was on my way. I think I was going to Vegas for World Finals, and I'm like, I need a movie to watch on the plane. It was probably the first movie I rented digitally because it was 9 years ago, so I wasn't doing that much then. Right. I think it was the first movie I did it through iTunes, and I watched it on the airplane. And Holy Motors is a weird ass freaking movie, man. So bizarre. And this one, when I saw this movie was coming out and he was directing it, I was like, all right, this would be something weird and interesting, and I wasn't wrong. Yeah. It's like it's a musical that knows it's a musical fantasy, but then it intertwines you into its own elements, and then like there's this bigger, more like betrayal plot going on throughout it. They sing everything like it's one, and I don't normally like musicals. Like it's a musical, so people know that. It's also 2.5 hours, so it's a bit of a hard one to get through at times. Yeah. It's so hard to describe it without because I enjoyed my time watching it, but I don't want to make it sound like I'm recommending it for everybody. There are certain movies that you only recommend for certain people, and I kind of know the people that I would tell to watch this movie. And if you know me, you know who you are probably.
If you know, you know.
If you know, you know. The more you know. Adam Driver. There's 3 main characters, and that's Adam Driver, Marianne Cotillard, and Simon Helberg.
Wallowitz from The Big Bang Theory.
Yes.
I love the fact that he's moved on to a non-funny sidekick role.
Yes, in a weird ass movie, man.
But he was also in
other things.
He came out in 2016. It's right here. Here's the movie poster.
So it's a romance between a opera singer played by Cotillard, who won her Oscar for playing an opera singer, and Adam Driver, who is a comedian,
Yes.
a very avant-garde comedian, if you will, and like his whole comedy, and it makes sense because comedy shows in movies are hard to actually make funny. So how they do it is like he sings like, "Now this is where you laugh, laugh, laugh," and then like the audience laughs and they sing, and there's a lot of interaction between the crowd and him when he's doing his comedy. It takes a turn for the worse at some point. But the one thing I want to talk about too, and so they have a baby.
Oh gosh.
Yeah,
lots of cunnilingus in this movie.
Well, yeah, there's that too. But they have a baby, and it's a puppet, which it's
a weird fuzzy puppet.
A weird, yes, with giant ears. So I'm like, is this supposed to be like a nymph or like a like some sort of fictional character?
Mm-hmm.
It all kind of comes to you kind of see at the end that I don't want to give it away, but there's a reason why they did that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's part of it. Part of the reason they did that was so they could have the kid do things that a real baby that age wouldn't be able to do.
Right.
Because she starts to be able to like sing at like 9 months old or something like that. So you can't have a real baby do that. So that's why I think a lot. But then they kind of do the artistic twist to it at the end. There's murder. And possibly, even though there is murder, but the one of them doesn't really. You're just kind of led to your own belief. Did he mean to do it, or did she? Did it happen?
Yeah.
It's all very much like an opera.
It is very much so.
It's what if someone filmed an opera but had like big sets to do it on? That's what this movie is, because a lot of it you're trying to figure out what the hell's going on most of the time.
Kind of like if you're trying to understand what we're talking about right now. We're trying to put into words what we watched, and it's difficult because Mike's doing a great job, but still, it's like I'm trying to just piece together and remember, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's what they try to do. It's very complex, very intriguing, very artistic. And
it is.
While it wasn't something that I normally, enjoy, like when we talked about Midsommar a year ago at the Now, not one of my favorite things. I respect it for its art and what they achieved.
Yep.
Am I going to watch it again?
I will say this. I think both Marianne Cotillard and Adam Driver give fantastic performances. Mm-hmm. Really great performances. I don't know that Adam Driver is a great singer, but it didn't really bother me in this movie.
Yeah.
Obviously, Marianne is, and she's fantastic at singing and acting in this movie. But some of the stuff that Driver does, that the one scene, I was watching it, I'm like, this had to be difficult to do. He was doing his stand-up, and again, the whole movie is singing. So there's only a couple of lines that aren't sung throughout the movie. So he's basically singing on the stage, and he's talking about his relationship and that he murdered his wife. And at this point, she's still alive, so she's not dead yet. Mm-hmm. She does die in the movie. That's a spoiler, I guess. But and he just gives this very raw, emotional performance alone on stage in front of that whole audience. Mm-hmm. And just the mindset I think that he would have had to put himself into to do that was impressive to me. Like I respected it. Just thinking about what it would have taken to get into that kind of frame of mind.
You think he was thinking about what he did to Rey in Star Wars?
Yes. I think that's how he bases all his characters on, is what Kylo would do.
I was kind of hoping to do it. I was thinking, like, at the beginning, like, oh, it's just Daisy Ridley. Daisy the whole time. It's a raw performance. I really hope he does get an Oscar nomination for it. I don't know that he will, because it's a streaming movie. It came out really early. It did really well, like it can and stuff. But, I mean, we're still months away from the Oscar nomination. So, a lot of times these kind of roles, especially because it's a movie that you're going to have people not like it at all, that hate this movie. So, it's going to be hard for it to stay relevant when it comes Oscar time. Right.
But I'd be curious to see if he gets a nomination, because he was fantastic.
Absolutely he was, yes.
And it reminded me kind of similar to his performance in Marriage Story. How just very raw and very just in your face, and not very likable. Like that, you don't like him throughout this movie, but he does such a good job that you really you're not rooting for him, but you're like, oh, like he's such a great character. Like it's just a great character, I think. But Leos Carax is a weirdo, and if someone came up to me and told me that I was a terrible person for liking this movie, I would not fault them for that because it is a weird and bizarre movie. But it's just sometimes these things they just stick with you, and I think this is a movie that will stick with me for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I have to say about that, Wayne. Any final thoughts?
Okay, Forrest. Again, I didn't hate it. I didn't particularly enjoy it, but I can say that it was a nice art piece, and again, the performances were great.
Yep. All right, so we're gonna move on to our next segment, which I totally forgot last time, which is my horror pick of the week. I've actually got two selections, but this is that's the second one I want to talk about because there's a bigger story with that. I wanted to talk about this one last time, but I totally forgot. It's called The Changeling. Now, there's a movie with Angelina Jolie called Changeling, completely different movie. This one is a ghost story starring George C. Scott from the 80s. I had never heard of it up until like maybe 3 years ago, when I watched it on Shudder, I think. Eli Roth has this horror show that he does on AMC, and I was watching the Ghost episode that he had, and I was like, they got to it, and I stopped the episode because they showed some clips. I'm like, that looks really cool. So I stopped it. I actually went and watched it, and then went back and finished watching the show because I didn't want them to spoil it for me. And it's honestly probably one of my favorite ghost stories. It's about a guy who deals with loss and living like in this old mansion, and some ghost is like reaching out to him through objects and stuff. It's really, really well done. I think it's kind of one of those movies that's like a forgotten classic. Like it came out, kind of went, and then it's gaining, a lot of life now, 40 years later. So I think it's something that people should check out. Like I said, it is on Shudder, I believe, or Amazon, one of the two right now.
Does Angelina get her baby back, though?
Not in this one.
Well, they can't all be winners.
All right, the next one correlates to something that I haven't done in over a year and a half, Wayne, and that is yesterday. And I didn't tell you this because I wanted to break down the show. I went to the movie theater for the first time in over a year and a half. I went and saw the new Candyman movie, and I thought it was really good.
Nice.
I liked it a lot. Being back at the theater, it was a little weird. It was, but I made sure I got if you go to AMC's, at least in Florida, there are seats right next to the stairs that no one really sits at. I got one of those seats because it's a 2-seater thing, and I'm like, no one's gonna buy a separate seat next to me. Right. So I wore my mask the whole time. I brought in wipes to wipe down the seat and stuff to make sure it was all good. I was a little nervous for that kind of stuff, but just to be in the theater again, watching trailers for the first time since February of 2020.
How many people were in the theater?
Probably about 30 or so.
Okay, yeah, that's a number that you could get a little, anxious about.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. There was, and not many in front of me. There were only 2 people sat in the very front, and then there was one guy over here in the handicap seat. But there were plenty of people behind me. But I didn't even really look at them because I was watching the movie, and I was taking in the experience again, and just the atmosphere again, watching the trailers and the big screen again is, and then also sitting there God, how many goddamn trailers are there going to be? Because that's part of the movie experience. You're like, oh, I love trailers, and you're like, are these going to end anytime soon?
25 minutes in.
Yeah, exactly. But it was fun just to be back again. I felt good afterwards, and I don't think I have COVID, so it'll be something I hope to be doing again soon. And I wanted to bring up Candyman because the new one just came out, and Candyman is kind of forgotten about as being a 90s classic horror film because of Scream. And people always talk about how crappy the 90s horror movies are, and there's a lot of 90s horror that I like, and this is probably one of my favorites. It's a great character. It's a great slasher film. Tony Todd is amazing in this. You get Virginia Madsen as the lead final girl, I guess, even though it's not really that type of a slasher. But it's such a crazy, crazy movie about revenge, and it's a ghost story, and it's about Cabrini Green. It takes place in Chicago, so it's about the the trials and tribulations of African Americans in Chicago at the time, which is great because the new one, expands on that a lot. The new movie takes in gentrification, takes in the cops attacking black people. It goes into a lot of different directions, and it's also, I wanted to bring it up too because often a lot of the criticism for the new Candyman is, oh, it's too woke, or it's too this, it's too much, it's got too much of a message. Horror movies have had a message since the beginning of time. It's the one genre that people have been able to play with where they can have a message, and most people, unfortunately, it goes unnoticed because people don't always watch horror movies for that. But going back as far as 1968 and Night of the Living Dead, George A. Romero made that movie as a allegory to racism. Like, that's why the movie was made, and he was kind of shocked that like nobody got it. And so when people always go, oh, I don't like my horror movies with a message, it's like, but they'll be the same people that love Night of the Living Dead, love People Under the Stairs, love Candyman, and they don't realize that there's messages in those movies, and they're there for a reason.
Yeah. Most of the time people are like, the naked chick got killed.
Right, exactly.
It's like, yeah, because that's exactly what the point they were trying to make.
Well, and, part of it, I think, is at fault of the 80s, because the 80s, the slasher thing boomed, and it made a lot of great movies, but they really were just about killing people. Like, that's all. There weren't a lot of messages in those movies. I think you have to go to the 60s, the 70s, the 90s, and current films, and you find a lot more messages in horror. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's great that people get to explore that. It's like, it's culture. Things change with time. And right now we're seeing a big movement to recognizing black culture, recognizing Asian culture, and other cultures outside of white culture that should be, I think, represented on screen. Perfect example, Shang-Chi opens on Friday. All Asian cast for the most part. There's a couple white people, I think, in there. But all Asian cast. It's a huge superhero movie. Hopefully it does well. I don't know that it will because we're in a pandemic. But that's a big step forward for superhero films, as I feel Candyman and the new Candyman are a big step forward for African-American horror-based cinema. So just wanted to say that. We're going to go on to what we've watched recently.
It took me 20 years, but I am now fully into watching Friends. I am halfway through season 2, and I'm enjoying myself for the most part. I am noticing just the jokes that are made and whatnot, and enjoying, for when they were shot and everything. I'm not offended by anything because I can take a joke. I can also understand why people would be hurt by some of the things that they joke about. Obesity, hi, but I get it. And just, the kind of reactions to, some of the jokes. But also, in season 2, they have a lesbian couple get married and celebrated and cheered the whole episode. And I think that's fantastic. And
there's a lot of positive messages in that show. And there's some stuff that hasn't aged well, but for the most part, I think that show tried to be for everybody, but it was for, not everybody related to it, I think.
I just watched an episode that included Jean-Claude Van Damme in it.
Oh, really? All right.
Hey, the muscles! So that was interesting. And yeah, Julia Roberts is in an episode so far. I mean, I know that they've, Brad Pitt's in episodes in the future seasons and whatnot. So Tom Selleck plays recurring.
Tom Selleck plays Monica's boyfriend throughout for a while.
Who's also her childhood eye doctor, I believe.
Something along those
a little
lines,
weird, but they play into that and joke about it and whatnot. So yeah, it took me 20 years, but I am enjoying my run through Friends right now. So,
all right. So I did find Strike Back as a Cinemax show. I started really good. It's about two guys it's basically this British team that goes around like stopping terrorism. Basically, they recruit an American guy who's a former Delta Force dude who was let go because he wouldn't follow an order that he didn't believe he should follow, something along those lines.
Is it Chuck Norris?
It's not Chuck Norris. Way better than that Delta Force. It's really good. I don't know if people have seen it. It's an action show, essentially. Philip Winchester and Sullivan Stapleton are the main characters. Philip Winchester, Law and Order fans would know him. And then Sullivan Stapleton was in Blind Spot on NBC. And he was also in the 300 sequel. So that's a fun show, fun action show. Brooklyn Nine-Nine is back for its final season, so if you haven't been watching, it's been really good. they're taking kind of a different direction, obviously with all the cop stuff in the news and stuff in the last couple of years. They felt that they kind of had to take it a little bit in a different direction, and it's working. But it is the final season, so it will be over shortly. There's another show that I started, and I watched like 2 episodes. I can't remember, so whatever. If I remember it, I'll talk about it later. Heels on Stars with Stephen Amell is really good. I watched the first episode of that. All right, everybody, we're going to wrap up with the news and notes here. There's a lot because of the last 2 weeks, basically.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Hotel Transylvania 4 shifts from theaters to Amazon in a $100 million deal for Sony. Scarlett Johansson is the latest to join Wes Anderson's new movie with Tom Hanks, Margot Robbie, Tilda Swinton, Bill Murray, and Adrian Brody. Pet Sematary prequel adds Henry Thomas and Samantha Mathis. We were just talking Field of Dreams. There's a TV series in the works at Peacock, as well as a TV series we talked about before for A League of Their Own on Amazon. So all these old baseball movies getting their own shows.
Mm-hmm.
Where's our Major League show, damn it? Adventure Time related series coming to HBO Max. Horror documentary series about the great horror monsters / icons coming to Shudder. Eminem to play White Boy Rick in new produced 50 Cent series for Star. So Eminem returning to acting after all these years.
Mm-hmm.
Murder Mystery 2 finds director and is moving into production. Aubrey Plaza joins Emily the Criminal as the title character and a producer. Never Have I Ever has been renewed for season 3. It's a really good show if you haven't seen it. Ironheart, who's getting her own Marvel TV show on Disney Plus, will be introduced in Black Panther 2. Horror actress Danielle Harris and American Beauty star Mina Savari join Anne with Love. It's a new horror film coming out. Punky Brewster has been canceled at Peacock after 1 season. This is the revival of the old show. Rumor that Black Canary is getting her own film. I believe since I wrote this down, it has been confirmed that she is going to get her own film at HBO Max, starring Journey Smollett, who played her in the Birds of Prey movie. Christian Bale to star in The Church of Living Dangerously. Anya Taylor-Joy reteams with The Witch director Robert Eggers for Nosferatu remake. Batista texted Jason Momoa one day saying they should do a buddy cop movie set in Hawaii. Momoa said he has an idea, and now it's happening, so kind of excited about that.
I wish I could just text you like, hey, check it out. That's what we should do. Actually, technically, that's why we're doing this.
Yes, this is true. I wish I could text Jason Momoa and tell him, hey, I want a career. See what happens. Witches of Eastwick remake on the way from writer and director Nina Thiberi, I believe is how it's spelled. It's spelled Ninja Thyberg, but it's not Ninja and it's not Thyberg. So it's like, I think it's Nina Terry or Tiberi or something like that. The Matrix 4 is titled The Matrix Resurrections, so that's coming out later this year. Lakeith Stanfield to star in, I mentioned The Changeling, in a show called The Changeling. Nothing to do with each other Changeling I talked about already, so different Changeling for Apple Plus TV. It's based off of a novel of the same name.
Lakeith Stanfield, another one that's just blowing up right
now.
Yep,
very, very talented man. Jacob Anderson, who played Grey Worm in Game of Thrones, is going to play Lewis, Brad Pitt's role in Anne Rice's Interview with the Vampire TV show at AMC. Pretty big news there.
Yeah.
Barry Jenkins, Lion King prequel, cast Aaron Pierre as a young Mufasa and Steve Harrison Jr. as a young Scar. He's got a different name as a young, whatever his real name is in the Lion King verse. Marvel looking to cast Latino actor for Halloween special to air next year, possibly based on Werewolf by Night, which is their werewolf character they have. Thora Birch, Ricky Lindholm, Jamie McShane, and many more join Jenna Ortega, Luis Guzman, and Catherine Zeta-Jones in Tim Burton's Wednesday over at Netflix. Cobra Kai officially renewed for Season 5, Wayne. Season 4 will debut this December, so they're ahead of the game there. Statham, this is me and my son's favorite news of the week. Jason Statham is going to star in an action thriller called The Beekeeper. It's going to be steeped in beekeeper mythology, whatever the hell that means. All I can picture is just be like, they came and they killed all my bees, and now I need revenge.
They took my honey.
Because I'm the beekeeper. He also is
this summer action stings.
Jason Statham will also reprise his role in the spy movie in Spy 2 with Melissa McCarthy and directed by Paul Feig. Manifest fans, you've all been asking and you've been awarded a final season at Netflix. So it's just been announced, 20-episode season. I don't know if they're going to do it all at once or if they're going to do like Lucifer and kind of split it into parts. That's what I would guess is going to happen, to kind of draw it out as long as they can. The singer, is going to star in the Color Purple musical film that will be coming out sometime in the near future. Release is coming out soon. Afterlife of the Party, starring Victoria Justice, hits Netflix September 2nd. Nightbooks, produced by Sam Raimi from the director of Brightburn, hits Netflix September 15th. The Foundation premieres September 24th on Apple Plus. It's a new kind of like fantasy show, sci-fi show that Apple is doing based on the Foundation book series. Yellowstone season 4 finally has an air date of November 7th of this year. Mayor of Kingstown, starring Jeremy Renner from Taylor Sheridan, who's the creator of Yellowstone, debuts a week later, November 14th. Yellowstone 1883, which is the prequel, starring Sam Elliott, Tim McGraw, and Faith Hill, debuts December 19th. Day of the Dead TV show premieres on Sci-Fi October 15th, 3 days after Chucky, and on the same day as I Know What You Did Last Summer. Also the same day that Halloween Kills and Venom 2 debut in theaters. So October 15th, big day this year. If you're a horror movie fan. Intrusion hits Netflix September 22nd. Addams Family 2 now getting digital and theatrical release on October 1st. Curb Your Enthusiasm returns in October for season 11. The Starling with Melissa McCarthy, Chris O'Dowd, and Kevin Kline hits Netflix September 24th. The Guilty with Jake Gyllenhaal and directed by Antoine Fuqua hits Netflix October 1st. The Power of the Dog Western hits Netflix December 1st, directed by Jane Campion and starring Benedict Cumberbatch, Kirsten Dunst, Jesse Plemons, and Cody Smith-Fee. Deaths this week, the last couple weeks. Sean Locke, dead at 58 from cancer. The Great Sonny Chiba, dead from COVID at 82. Francis Mossman from Spartacus, Blood and Sand, dead at 33. Don Everly of the Everly Brothers, dead at 84. Marilyn Eastman, Night of the Living Dead actress, dead at 87. Brian Travers, UB40 saxophonist, dead at 62. Legendary drummer Charlie Watts from the Rolling Stones, dead at 80. Michael Nader from Dynasty, dead at 76. Matthew Mindler, who was a young child actor from Our Idiot Brother, dead at 19 years old. Only no news on what happened yet. He was missing, and then he was found dead. And then lastly, just came through, Ed Asner, the legendary TV and film actor, dead at 91. He lives a long life. Obviously, 91 is, he's been around a while. So that's our show for this week, everybody. We appreciate you listening and eventually watching when we upload these to YouTube. It's been great doing these, Wayne, for 61 episodes, and we look forward to continue doing them, and we hope that you're enjoying them. So thank you for watching, everybody. For Wayne Yerke, I'm Mike Patrick. Thank you for listening to Now Showing with Mike and Wayne.